Darkness. That's all I saw as I fluttered my eyes open. I couldn't tell if my eyes were even open or closed, nor could I tell where I was. Strangely, I couldn't remember much, except for... Suddenly realization hit me as I remember taking the survey and being abducted by a demented version of Fluttershy, the element of kindness herself. I had been forced into a sick game of life or death, and every choice I made had either ended in bloodshed or punishment. Fluttershy had been ruthless throughout the entire survey, forcing her animals to do the unthinkable to people that I cared for, but also did not care for. I had broken the rules only once, and as a result of my desperation, my girlfriend, who had coaxed me into taking the survey, was mauled to death by Fluttershy's most deadly animal, Harry. I was given an array of questions, and with each question came either suffering for me or my girlfriend. In the end, I had done harm to myself, being forced to cut into my own flesh with the nearby knife I had in my room. I had to spell out the word traitor on my arm and cut deep enough so that the wounds would leave scars. I had attempted to use my girlfriend as a cover to save my own ass, but Fluttershy put me to the ultimate test. A test of kindness in its own twisted form. In the end, I had failed, and seeing I had enough nerve to use my girlfriend as an excuse to save myself, she was slaughtered before my eyes on webcam. Fluttershy truly had exposed me for who I really was, a lying traitor that would use someone he actually cared for as a cover to save himself. By the end of the survey, I was already broken, and it only grew worse as I was forced to watch some demented video labeled as Fate.mp4. In the video, it showed footage of my girlfriend moments before she died. She told me that she hated me and wished only the worst death for me. I couldn't escape my own true nature, seeing she had every right to hate me, because I had gotten her killed. After the survey, I remembered being abducted into some room with close to over 1,000 different screens, each being other unfortunate victims of the survey. Fluttershy had approached me, telling me that it was up to the other participants to decide my fate. I was expecting certain death, but somehow I had been spared. Fluttershy stated that I was not finished and had yet another test to take. After that, I remembered nothing except pitch black darkness. Now I was here, lost in what seemed like endless darkness. But strange enough, I was able to move freely. I was not constricted by any sort of force. I decided to feel around and attempt to figure out where I was. Using my hands, I examined the solid surface I was sitting on. It was cold and hard. It wasn't even hard to recognize as steel. Out of my investigation, the sound of a hiss from within the small box erupted, causing me to jump and immediately panic, as I sprawled to my feet and attempted to run. As weak as I was, I could not run fast, but didn't get far, hitting a solid wall of what sounded like glass. Not thinking straight, I ran in the opposite direction as fast as possible, until once again I hit another glass wall. I couldn't run to my left or right, so I attempted to run forward, which came to the same conclusion as before, hitting a solid glass wall. In the darkness, I could not tell which direction I was running anymore, so I pounded against the glass wall, hoping for it to break. The glass was thick, causing my knuckles to start hurting, and sweat start to form upon my forehead. I resorted to shouting for help, only to receive no response, and my own voice to echo within the small enclosure. I continued to pound against the glass, even though it was clear that it was not going to break, as the hissing sound continued to circulate throughout the enclosure. My worst fear was that the hissing noise was some sort of poisonous gas being leached into whatever I was stuck in, slowly killing me with each passing second. The darkness made it even hard to tell if anything was happening. I couldn't see my own hand in front of my face, I couldn't determine where I was, and in that moment, I couldn't tell if my eyes were even open. I continued to panic as I heard the sound of an intercom erupt from within the area. Experiment 1030771. Please hold still. Where are you? Where are you? Come out and face me! If you do not calm down, I will have no choice but to sedate you. Fuck you! Experiment is not responding. Commence sedation process. Suddenly, I felt a strong surge of electricity flow throughout my entire body, immediately causing me to collapse to the ground in severe pain from the unexpected shock. I opened my eyes to nothing but pure darkness, confused at first of where I was, until I remembered what had happened. I carefully stood back up, being careful to watch my surroundings, even though my surroundings were completely invisible to me. Panic and fear started to overcome my mind, until I heard the same voice within the box again. Do you understand the consequences now? Experiment 1030771. I was in no position to argue, so I just nodded my head in response to the unknown voice. Good. Now that you are calm, allow me to explain where you are. You are in a safe box, protected from any threats outside of the box. However, this box is a test of both mentality and sanity. All you have to do in this box is remain within it for a period of 4 days. But be warned, as I stated, this is a test of mentality and sanity, meaning this test will play tricks on your mind, human. The darkness is both a matter of wonders and mysteries, able to fool even the boldest of the bold. No human has ever survived this test, so tell me, human, are you afraid of the dark? My anger was growing massively. Was this unknown voice serious? All I had to do was remain here for 4 days? That seemed too easy, and the fact that no human had survived the test made me quiver. And what if I do survive? You will be free to go. You will be returned to wherever you came from, able to do whatever you wish to do. The reward of the survival made my confidence boost a little bit. If I survived, I could shut down the sick game of madness for good, and all I had to do was sit here for 4 days. It seemed simple enough, but even I knew that nothing about this sick game was going to be simple. I'll survive your sick game. You bastards will pay for all you've done. The robotic voice let out a chuckle that made me shake. We'll see, human. Let the test begin. Suddenly, the voice cut off, and I was left alone in the never-ending darkness. Just me, the dark, and my sanity. I can do this. I can do this. Little did I know that I was in way over my head, and that my nightmare was just beginning. The test had begun, and seeing I had nowhere to go except for here, I took a seat on the floor of the box, trying to think of other things besides of what had happened in the past 4 hours. Thinking of negative things was the last thing I wanted to do right now, seeing the negativity would add to the creepiness of the environment I was in. I didn't know where I was, who had put me here, or if I was even alone in the endless darkness. I stopped myself right there, feeling a chill run up my spine. Think happy thoughts, I said to myself, attempting to shrug off the small bit of fear that had corrupted my mind. I was already too late, feeling my body enter a state of insecurity and paranoia. It was true, I had no idea if I was alone, or if the sick bastards that had stuck me in this hell had included any other threats in this hell with me. I stood back up, attempting to listen for any growls, breathing, or the sound of any steps within the environment. The hissing noise within the box made the task impossible, as I debated on moving from my current area. I couldn't see anything, so finding my way around the box was far from possible. As I attempted to listen for anything over the sound of the hissing, I made sure to keep my breathing shallow, not wanting to arouse any sort of attention. If there was anything here except myself, no matter how hard I tried to hear for anything, the hiss made it impossible, meaning that if I was going to find anything, I had no choice but to move away from the hissing noise. As much as I did not want to move, I had to, so I carefully moved away from the hissing noise with caution. I took baby steps away from the hiss, immediately noticing a difference in volume. The hissing noise became much more quiet as I moved more and more throughout the large enclosure. I took great caution with each step, reaching out with my hands for guidance. The only thing I prayed not to feel was something along the lines of prickly fur or even another human's flesh. The people who threw me in this place were sick and twisted enough to do something that demented, so I just continued to feel around for either a wall or nothing. For a good 20 minutes, I had walked around the box and found nothing but blank space and 4 glass walls. I had not heard anything besides the sound of my own breathing and the heartbeat within my chest. Even though I had no idea where I was in the box, I knew that the theory I had about being locked in here with something else was all but diminished. As I came to a stop within the darkness, I let out a breath of relief, knowing that I was safe within this place, and the voice that I had heard from the intercom was not lying. I shook my head at that theory, realizing what was happening. It was exactly what the voice had stated before. This is a test of mentality and sanity, meaning this test will play tricks on your mind, human. I had been tricked into nearly trusting the people that had put me here. I understood the purpose of me being put into pitch black darkness. It had easily fooled me into thinking that I wasn't here alone, and even now, it still had me on the verge of panic, unsure of what other tricks I might fall for if I didn't keep a level head. This was only day 1, and within only 30 minutes, I was already panicking. Remain focused. It's just a box. Nothing more. There's nothing to be scared of. It's all in your head. It's all in your head. Indeed it was. Exactly what these sick people wanted me to know. I just hadn't realized it until just then in the darkness of the box. I didn't know who these people were, where I was, or if I was even safe. All I knew was that if I had any chance of surviving, I had to remain level-headed. Easy enough, right? Wrong. I opened my eyes, only to find myself in my computer desk chair, tied down by rope and unable to move anything except my head. I looked around, seeing that I was back in my room, but once I saw the computer screen, I knew I was in danger. The computer screen was a familiar sight, a sight I'd never forget. Fluttershy was in the middle of a dark room, humming a tune that had an ambience of happiness and kindness, until she turned to the screen to face me. The element of kindness was holding a large knife in one hoof, caressing the blade's edge slowly with the other, continuing to hum her tune. Her eyes stared into mine, as she stared at me with a deadly smile on her face. I struggled with all my strength to get out of the chair, but it was clear that I wasn't going anywhere, as Fluttershy began to speak familiar words.
Such a shame that someone who grew up such a sweet boy would pull acts of such unkindness. For that, you must be shown that such horrible acts will not pass. And don't worry, I'll be gentle as possible.
At that moment, Fluttershy leaned through the computer screen, easily passing through the computer screen, much like Samara did in the movie The Ring. Fluttershy's appearance had changed from what I saw behind the computer screen. Instead of her eyes being their normal blue color, her eyes had changed into an endless black, with her pupils being a single red dot. She looked more evil and demented, but her voice is what added to her character. The voice started out normal, but quickly escalated into something more demonic, as she thrusted the knife into my left arm. The pain was unbearable as she dug deeper and deeper into my arm, proceeding to carving traitor into my arm. It was much like before, only with more force and unbearable pain. I screamed for mercy as Fluttershy continued to carve, humming that same tune in the moment of torture. I woke up screaming in the darkness of the box, hearing my echoes scream off at the 4 walls of the enclosure. Sweat drenched my entire body as I struggled to catch my breath. I inhaled and exhaled long breaths of fear as I stood back up, feeling my heartbeat inside of my chest. The struggle to catch my breath continued as my mind came to realization of where I was and that I had just woken up from a horrifying nightmare. I finally managed to catch my breath after nearly a minute of waking up from the nightmare. Sweat dripped from my forehead as I calmed myself to a content level of breathing normal. Calm down. Calm down. It was just a nightmare. Nothing more. It was hard to focus in the darkness as I wiped away the large amount of sweat that had been built up on my forehead. I had no idea how long I had slept, nor did I even remember falling asleep. I regained my composure and stood in the darkness, noticing that my throat was awfully dry. I was dehydrated and exhausted. From among the darkness, I suddenly heard a mild giggle, which immediately caused me to jump to caution. I wondered if it was just my imagination, as I carefully navigated through the massive darkness, suddenly hearing another giggle. This time, it was loud enough for me to clarify that this was not my imagination playing tricks on me. "Hello?" I yelled, immediately noticing something move within the darkness. Whatever had moved was quick, but I swore that I had saw something like a yellow stream within the glimpse of a movement. The darkness made it impossible to tell as I moved deeper into the darkness, hearing something very familiar. It was the same humming tune, and it had suddenly made itself known within the box as I muttered out a word without realizing it. "Fluttershy?" I questioned. The humming just continued as I saw yet another glimpse of yellow closer to me. I attempted to look around, but it was pitch black everywhere I looked. The humming got closer, closer, and closer, until I realized it was coming from right in front of me. I couldn't see anything, but I did see 2 red dots as she got closer to me. As a defense, I threw punches toward the red dots, but I hit nothing except blank space. The humming grew in volume as I threw fist after fist, hitting only blank space once again. "Shit, I'm dead, I'm dead, I'm dead, I'm dead, I'm dead!" That's all I could scream in my head as the 2 red dots finally made contact. I continued to throw punches as defense, but it was like fighting a ghost. I expected the impact to be my demise, but instead, I felt nothing as I heard the humming tune dissipate in the darkness. Was that real? It had to be! I contemplated as I heard the intercom erupt within the box.
Day 1 complete. Day 2 has begun.
With that, the intercom static faded to nothing, and I was left alone again, wondering if what I had saw was real or just some sort of hallucination. I'd never know the answer, because this darkness was managing to do what it was designed for. I could no longer tell what was real and what was just a mind trick. I still had 2 days to go. 2 days of hell.